Have you ever walked into your kitchen, opened a cupboard, and suddenly forgot what you were looking for? You stand there quiet, hand resting on the door, trying to remember. It's not dramatic, not frightening, just unsettling. Like something is quietly slipping away and you're not sure when it started. These moments don't happen all at once. They build slowly. A forgotten word in conversation, a friend who doesn't call as often, a growing sense that the world is moving faster than you are. And you start to wonder, is this just aging, or am I somehow pushing people away without meaning to? Helen, a retired nurse in her 70s, used to be the center of everything. Her porch was the gathering spot. She knew every neighbor by name, birthdays, book clubs, Sunday dinners. But lately the house feels too quiet. The phone barely rings. Her daughter, once full of chatter, sounds distant on the other end. Helen asked herself the question no one likes to say out loud. Did I do something wrong? The truth is, as we grow older, we develop habits. Little ones. Harmless at first. But over time, they can change how people see us, how they connect with us, and how we see ourselves. These habits aren't just about slowing down or getting older. They're about the small ways we begin to retreat from the world without even noticing. But here's the good news. Once we see them, we can shift them, gently, lovingly, and that shift can bring us back to the warmth, connection, and peace we deserve. In this video, we're going to explore 12 common things that many seniors do without realizing how much they're hurting their relationships, their confidence, and their joy. Some are subtle, some are surprising. Number 8 is the one most people deny until it's too late. So I hope you'll stay with me through to the end. If this feels meaningful to you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Longevity Secret channel. It helps more people like you discover the gentle truths that make aging feel less lonely and more hopeful. Now let's begin with the first habit that slowly shuts the door on connection. Often it starts with something as simple as the words we choose to speak each day. 1. Letting bitterness speak louder than kindness. Sometimes bitterness doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly. A sigh during the evening news, a grumble at the cashier who's taking too long, a quiet resentment when family members cancel plans again. Helen never saw herself as a bitter person. She had always been strong, loyal, quick to help others. But after her husband passed and some friendships faded, she began to feel like the world had changed and not for the better. She found herself talking more about the things she had lost than the things she still had. Her conversations with her son Andrew started to shift. He would come by to check in, but before long, Helen was venting about the noise in the neighborhood, or how people no longer respected each other. One day after another visit cut short, she realized he barely said 10 words the whole time. He had sat, nodded, and left with a polite kiss on the cheek. But the warmth was missing. The truth is, people carry enough of their own burdens. They don't always have the energy to absorb someone else's frustration, even if it's valid. When bitterness becomes the loudest thing in the room, connection fades into the background. This doesn't mean you have to be cheerful all the time. It means noticing when pain starts to color everything, and choosing even on hard days to speak a little more kindness than complaint. That shift opens the door to healing for you and the people you love. 2. Giving up on daily grooming and self-care. There's a quiet moment that happens in many seniors' lives. They stop getting dressed in the morning. Maybe it's just one day, then another. Then it becomes the new normal. Helen used to love putting herself together. She had scarves that matched her earrings. She'd spritz her favorite floral perfume before walking out to water the plants. She didn't do it to impress anyone. She did it because it made her feel like herself. But after a rough winter and a hip injury that slowed her down, things changed. Mornings became slower. She stayed in her bathrobe until noon, sometimes all day. The mirror felt like a stranger, and she began telling herself, what's the point? Over time, even the mail carrier stopped chatting with her on the porch. Friends didn't drop by as often. Helen told herself they were just busy, but part of her knew she had started to disappear in her own life. Personal grooming isn't about looking young. It's about showing up for yourself. Feeling clean, put together, and present sends a message to your own heart, I matter today. And it doesn't take much. Combing your hair, wearing a blouse you love, washing your face with warm water and a little care. These acts of self-respect lift the spirit and remind others that you're still very much alive inside. One day, Helen put on her bright green cardigan, brushed her hair, and went out for a walk. A neighbor waved from across the street and said, "It's good to see you again." It was the same neighborhood, same street, but that moment felt new. 3. Rejecting new tools that could keep you connected. Technology can feel overwhelming, especially when it changes faster than we like. It's easy to say, "I don't need that." But sometimes saying no to something new also means saying no to someone you love. Frank, a retired trucker from Idaho, was proud of his independence. He never owned a computer, still writes checks by hand. But his kids live in different states now, and his grandkids don't use the phone the way he does. One day, his daughter invited him to a video call so he could see his great-granddaughter's first steps. Frank waved it off, said, "I don't want to mess with that nonsense." She didn't push, but he missed it. The moment passed, and no one brought it up again. That night, Frank sat alone wondering why the house felt quieter than usual. No one's asking you to become a tech wizard, but learning just one thing, how to send a simple text or open a video message, can bring people closer. It tells them, "I want to be part of your world too." The next time his daughter called, Frank asked, "Can you show me again how that app works?" She was surprised. Happily so. They ended the call with laughter. And the next time the family shared a birthday online, Frank was there, smiling through a tiny screen, part of the memory, instead of left out of it. 4. Clinging to objects that weigh you down emotionally. Letting go can feel like betrayal of people, of memories, of who we used to be. Helen's back bedroom had become a storage cave. Old photo albums, coats from the 70s, boxes of cards she hadn't opened in years. She told herself they were too important to throw away, but every time she opened the door, she felt anxious, overwhelmed. Her daughter gently asked if they could sort through some of it together. Helen snapped, "I'll get to it later." But later never came. The truth is, clutter doesn't just fill a room. It fills your mind. It clutters your peace. It crowds out the space for today. Letting go of objects isn't the same as letting go of love. You're not forgetting the person who gave you that old scarf. You're choosing to make space for what matters now. And you don't have to do it all at once. One drawer, one shelf, one memory at a time. When Helen finally agreed to clear the room with her daughter, they laughed at some of the old clothes. They cried over a letter they found. And they packed up 3 bags to donate to families who needed them. That room became a reading space again, and Helen felt something she hadn't felt in a while. Free. 5. Making snappy comments instead of practicing patience. Patience wears thin with time, especially when pain is a daily companion, or when the world feels too fast. Helen was in line at the pharmacy when the young clerk dropped her bottle of pills. She muttered under her breath, "Come on already." The clerk apologized, his hands shaking. And for a moment, Helen saw herself through his eyes. Snappy words come easy when frustration bubbles up. But they linger longer than we think. And not just in the other person. They settle in us too, making us tense, disconnected. Taking a breath before speaking is a gift to yourself and to the world around you. The next week, Helen saw the same clerk. She smiled, said, "Take your time, I'm not in a rush." He looked up surprised, then smiled back. That moment, simple as it was, softened something inside her. Kindness is not weakness. It's a strength we can choose, over and over, even on tired days. 6. Dominating conversations without noticing. It often starts with good intentions, a story you want to share, a lesson learned from years of experience, A bit of advice that might save someone you love from making the same mistake, but slowly without meaning to the balance tips. And suddenly you're doing most of the talking. Helen didn't realize it at first. Her weekly phone calls with her daughter were something she looked forward to. She loved catching up. But somewhere along the way, those calls became more about her. She'd dive into a memory, then a complaint, then another story. By the time she paused, she'd say, "Anyway, how are you?" But her daughter was already glancing at the clock. One evening, her daughter said gently, "Mom, I miss being able to talk with you. It feels like there's no room for me anymore." It stung, not out of anger, but because Helen truly hadn't noticed. As we get older, we carry so much inside us, so much to say, but the people around us need space too, to feel heard, to feel seen. Good conversations aren't about who talks more. They're about how we make others feel while we're talking. Next time someone calls, try asking something simple. "What's been going on in your world lately?" And then just listen. Really listen. Helen tried that the next week, and for the first time in a while, her daughter opened up, shared something she was struggling with at work. At the end of the call, she said, "Thanks for listening, Mom. I really needed that." Those few words meant more than 100 stories. 7. Refusing help even when it's offered with love. There's a certain pride that comes with doing things on your own, especially when you've spent a lifetime taking care of others. Helen was used to being the helper, not the one who needed help. So when a kind young man offered to carry her groceries, she smiled tightly and said, "No, thank you. I've got it." She didn't. By the time she got to the porch, her arms were shaking, her back ached, and a deep, quiet frustration crept in. Later that night, she thought about it. Why was it so hard to say yes? We tell ourselves that accepting help makes us weak, but in truth, it makes us human. When someone helps you, it's not a burden, it's a bridge, a moment of connection. Imagine if no one ever let you help them. You'd feel useless, left out, unneeded. The next time Helen saw that same young man, she paused, then said, "Actually, I could use a hand today." His face lit up, not because he was doing a chore, but because he felt trusted. It was such a small thing, a shared moment at the trunk of her car. But it changed the way she saw herself. Not weaker, just more connected. 8. Being too frugal to enjoy life. Helen was careful with money, always had been. She clipped coupons, avoided restaurants, and thought twice before every purchase. She had a nice nest egg, but rarely touched it. So when her best friend Linda invited her on a weekend trip to the mountains, Helen's first instinct was to decline. Gas, meals, a hotel, it all added up. But later that night, she opened a drawer and saw her bank statement. Plenty of money, and then a picture. Her and Linda at a beach picnic from years ago. Laughing, carefree. She hadn't felt that light in a long time. Saving is important, but so is living. Experiences like travel time with friends or picking up a hobby you love, they feed your soul in ways a bank balance never will. A study from Harvard found that spending money on experiences, not things, leads to greater long-term happiness. So Helen said yes. And that weekend, she laughed until her cheeks hurt. Sat on a porch at sunset, played cards until midnight. When she got home, she didn't regret a single dollar. She felt like herself again. The question isn't always, can I afford it? Sometimes the better question is, can I afford to miss this moment? 9. Speaking down to younger people without realizing it. Generations speak different languages sometimes, not just words, but ways of thinking. Helen loved her grandson Ethan deeply, but lately he seemed quieter during visits. One day he excitedly showed her a music app he was working on. She chuckled and said, "In my day, we didn't need all that nonsense." His face fell. A silence grew between them, and soon he mumbled something about needing to go. She didn't mean to hurt him. She just wanted to share how different things used to be. But to him, it felt like judgment. It's easy to fall into comparisons, to think back then was better. But when we speak down to younger people even gently, it can push them away. Instead of dismissing what's new, we can get curious, ask questions, show interest. The next time Ethan visited, Helen tried something new. He mentioned his project again, and she said, "Tell me more about it." His eyes lit up. He explained his idea with energy and pride. For the first time in months, their conversation flowed easily. You don't have to understand everything to care about it. You just have to care about the person sharing it. 10. Carrying resentment that silently poisons joy. Some wounds don't bleed. They sit quietly inside the heart. A broken friendship, a falling out with a sibling, words spoken in anger that were never taken back. Over time, these memories harden into something heavier. Resentment. Helen hadn't spoken to her sister in over a decade. They used to be close, but one Christmas an argument broke out over something small. Neither of them called after that, and the silence became permanent. Every year as the holidays approached, Helen felt it, a dull ache. She'd see a commercial with two sisters laughing and her chest would tighten. The truth is, resentment doesn't protect us. It traps us. It keeps the pain alive while joy withers in the background. Studies have shown that holding on to anger and regret can increase stress, raise blood pressure, and even weaken the immune system. But more than that, it chips away at your spirit. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means saying, "I won't carry this pain any longer." Helen sat at her table one afternoon and wrote a letter to her sister. Not to send, just to say everything she'd been holding inside. When she finished, she folded it, took a deep breath, and tucked it into the fireplace. The flames didn't fix everything, but they softened something inside her. That night, she slept more peacefully than she had in years. Sometimes healing starts with a decision to stop rehearsing old pain. 11. Ignoring health warnings until they become emergencies. It's easy to brush off the little things. A dizzy spell, a sudden pain in your leg, a flutter in your chest. We tell ourselves it's nothing, or I'll deal with it later. That's exactly what Frank did. He started feeling numbness in his arm that came and went. He chalked it up to sleeping in a weird position. A few days later, it happened again, this time with blurred vision. He still didn't call his doctor. He didn't want to make a fuss. Then one morning he collapsed in the hallway. It was a minor stroke. He survived. But the weeks that followed were filled with hospital beds, rehab, and regret. The reality is your body whispers before it screams. And the sooner you listen, the better your chances of avoiding serious complications. Dizziness could be dehydration, or it could be the first sign of a heart issue. Fatigue might just be aging, or it might be something deeper. You don't have to panic, but you do have to pay attention. Helen learned this after a bad fall in her kitchen. She thought it was just low blood sugar. Turned out she was dehydrated and hadn't eaten enough that day. After a night in the hospital, she decided no more guessing. Now she keeps a pitcher of water on the counter, snacks nearby, and has a checkup scheduled every few months. It's not fear, it's self-respect. Your health is your foundation. Without it, everything else becomes harder. 12. Forgetting how to laugh, play, or feel delight. Joy doesn't disappear with age. Sometimes we just stop looking for it. Helen was flipping through an old album when she paused at a photo of herself, mid-laugh, holding an ice cream cone. She looked alive, bright, free. When was the last time she felt like that? These days, her mornings felt routine. She watched the news, did her chores, listened to the quiet. Then one evening, her neighbor Linda invited her over for movie night, an old comedy they both loved. Helen almost said no. She was tired, didn't feel up for it, but something in her said go. That night, as they laughed through a ridiculous scene, Helen felt something she hadn't in a long time. A full-bodied, tearful, joyful laugh. It was a reminder. Laughter is medicine, real medicine. It reduces stress hormones, boosts immunity, improves memory. But more than that, it connects us. Helen started playing music in the mornings again. She sang along while washing dishes. She bought a deck of cards and invited friends over. She even danced in her socks once just because the kitchen floor was clean and the song was too good to resist. Joy doesn't have to be earned. It has to be noticed, chosen, and sometimes all it takes is saying yes to the little things. Sometimes the hardest part of growing older isn't what we lose. It's what slowly slips away without us noticing. The connections, the laughter, the small routines that once made us feel alive and seen. But if this video has shown you anything, I hope it's this. You are not broken, you are not too late, and you are not alone. Every habit we talked about today is something many people fall into, not because they're careless, but because aging is filled with quiet changes, and no one gives you a map for how to stay connected, joyful, and strong through it all. But the truth is, you still have the power to choose, to open up instead of closing off, to try something new instead of staying stuck, to let go of what no longer serves you and reach for something better. Aging is not about fading away. It's about becoming lighter, freer, wiser. Remember what Helen discovered, that one small change, a smile, a text, a bright cardigan, a kind word can be the beginning of something beautiful. And that joy isn't something we wait for. It's something we choose. So if any part of this video touched your heart, I invite you to take one small step today, whatever feels right for you. And if you do, I promise it can make all the difference. Please stay with us for the next video, like this one if it helped you. Subscribe to the Longevity Secret channel for more heartwarming, life-changing insights. And if you feel comfortable, leave a comment. Share your story, your thoughts, or even just how you're feeling today. You matter here. You really do. Until next time, take good care of yourself. You're doing better than you think. And we'll be right here whenever you need a little hope to hold on to.